We are back again with episode. What episode are we on? Episode 4? Yeah, episode 4. Alright. So, a lot happened. The war over here broke out, and Mesopotamia and the Caspian Republic got steamrolled. Treaty over here happened, and Mesopotamia is not allowed to go anywhere above this line, basically. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, the demise of the purple team continues, and basically Ethiopia will be independent, and we had this new civilization. So we'll be starting this off with, do you remember? So last time I said that a bunch of people were trying to go to the far north, and we were going to document their journey this time. So documenting their journey, they very quickly end up inside of what's it called? Oh yeah, Southeast Asia, and they got kind of lost. Eventually, they followed the coast, and now humanity's really discovering like the really good stuff. Cause this is China. China, China geography is really good around the coastlines as like any other country, but China is also a huge coastline, which is why. Anyways, I'm not gonna be explaining politics. So eventually, they end up in the Korean Peninsula, and they stop like near Seoul in our timeline. That's their journey. Eventually they keep going, and they end up over here. That's it. That's everything. They end up over there, and with this they establish a colony. So, taking a look at this colony, it's literally just Korea. It's going to be called the Re- the the Republic of Korea. Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be called the Republic of Korea because all it is the Korean Peninsula. That's literally it. It will expand shortly, but for now that's all it is. Meanwhile, bunch of people over here said a bunch of natives decide to stop being native, and they make a colony, and they called this, what did they call this? Oh yeah, they called this the uh, Byzantine Republic. I told you I'm out of names. I'm copying them off of history. Too bad, deal with it. So the red team's very mad because they want Mediterranean, and that's Mediterranean. They can't have Mediterranean anymore because of that. So, being extremely mad, the red team decides to do a little something called war. Okay, so taking a look at, let's get straight into the war. So in this war, we have the red team making a very small front into the Byzantine Republic, and it goes well. They cross over the border successfully. They get into the country, but over there it's basically a stalemate. Because guess who just stabbed them in the back? The Caspians. Now, Caspia wasn't really happy with what they got out of the previous war, and so they go into complete warfare. And remember, I said that by this video, the monarchy of the red team would be dead. And, well, he's almost about to die. He's currently in his 90s. He's about to become the first person to hit 100 years old. But he knows that he needs to pull out of both of these wars and focus on preparing the country for the civil war. So he shoots out the Byzantine, and he's like, "Yo, peace treaty." Oh, I don't know why this isn't colored in. The Byzantine owned that. It's a part of the red team now. Red team just opened a front there, and the Byzantines say no, so he's forced to continue going in. But he does cut this part off and captures the capital, which was right over there, because they wanted it to be near the coast, but away from the red team. Meanwhile, the Caspians also say no, and they start steamrolling with the help of rebels and the people who are sick of being under the control of the red team. Eventually, this becomes the red team, and they do defeat the Byzantine in war and have a little bit of pushback over here, but nothing major. They are able to retrieve the border with Persia and eventually gain military access to Persia and cut off these troops, eventually encircling and destroying them. Peace. So let's. I'm going to draw a peace treaty. So in this peace treaty, Mesopotamia gains everything except for that small island from the Byzantine Republic, which does live on, but as a very small, actually the smallest nation in the entire world now. But other than that, Caspia becomes slightly stronger because the red team pays war reparations in exchange for Caspia signing a non-aggression pact, meaning they are no longer allowed to invade the red team for 100 years. Basically, so the rest of this episode and like halfway through the next episode, they're not going to be able to invade. the red team. Meanwhile, over here in the yellow team, the red team does something that changes the fate of literally the entirety of the red team. They expand, they expand, and they take this land. And now you might be thinking, Zillion, how is this small piece of in insignificant land going to change the history of the red team forever? Well, you fine viewer, if you remember this thing, the line, the great line, this is clearly above the line. And so therefore the yellow team is like, dude, uncool. You weren't allowed to go above this line. And the red team's like, you wanna enforce that law, mate? I'm still the strongest country in the entire world. And Persia's like, yo, you kinda disobeyed them, so we're actually gonna extend our lease without even asking you over that land, as well as declare war on you in case of war if in case you declare war on the Crimean Republic. And then the blue team's like, we don't really like the Iranis, Persians. I keep calling them Iran. They look so similar to Iran. They're not. They're Persia. And they're like, we're gonna also declare war on you. And Caspia's like, I can't really do anything. And then the Byzantine are like, not a part of this. So basically, the red team is forced into basically like giving up this portion of land and returning it to like the uncolonized stuff. And the red team says no. The Black Sea, no. The Crimean Republic is like, okay, then you will be invaded. And Mesopotamia is like, sure. And right after saying that, they fall into a civil war because the king just died. Now this like is like over here. This is like, what is this? Like, this is basically where Tripoli is. So, Tripoli does exist in our timeline. Tripoli? Yeah. Whatever the capital of Libya is called, I think it's called Tripoli. So, in this timeline, it does exist, and that's where the rebel capital is going to be. And the rebel capital very quickly takes out all of this, or not even a rebellion, a revolution to make Mesopotamia a democracy, not a, what's it called? Oh yeah, a monarchy. They also begin over here with a bunch of natives because the natives want their land in Europe back, and the natives very quickly take out all of the European possessions of Mesopotamia. And the Crimean Republic is like perfect time to invade, and so they take the perfect time to invade, and they invade. And this invasion kicks off the beginning of the downfall of Mesopotamia, as very quickly they're able to completely take out a large portion, and of course, Iran and the blue team, thirsty for land, also declare war and very quickly sweep through the lands. Now, Iran or not? No, why do I keep? If I accidentally say Iran, remember it is Persia, not Iran. I'm. I don't know why I keep calling it Iran. So Persia, they very quickly take out a large portion of land, and it seems like they're going to be the ones who get to the capital. And now the rebels are mad. So the rebels are like, "Yo, we'll pause the invasion and help you push back all of these guys, but we want better like economy and better wages and better minimum wage and everything." And the red team says sure. And with the red team finally united under one banner, they quickly push back the Persians and the Black Sea, or the Crimeans. The blue team though is a completely different story because they very quickly get to the coast and take over the Suez Canal, making the rebels and the red team cut off. With this, they're able to circle back and completely destroy, but eventually they're pushed, and everybody is pushed back. With this, let's take a look at the peace treaty, but before that, the civil war resumes. And this civil war is very quickly in the favor of the revolution, as they're basically able to get some government secrets and use that to turn even more people against the main government. And now the government finally succeeds, and this marks the first civil war that the revolution has won. So, in this civil war peace treaty thing, the Black Sea has to pay war reparations. Persia has to shorten their lease and immediately give this like 1 year from now, and the because that 1 year is to pull back all like Persian troops and people. And then the blue team doesn't really have to do anything, but they do have to make the basically tell the purple team that they're sorry. Instead of taking two provinces, they can only take one again. And with this, let's take a look at what the revolution changed. So basically, now the monarchy is less powerful, as one, they can't expand anymore without without meeting the needs and industrializing the already existing area. And the monarchy says we're going to be more fair, which they aren't really. So basically, the only thing that changes is they have to like industrialize all of this. And industrialized in this timeline is just making farms. Right now, they haven't invented big industries. They invented pew pews, but they didn't invent big industries. Meanwhile, the entire world is like, hold up, what happened to? Oh yeah, also the new monarchy is kind of like he's very mad and he's like very hot-headed and he will kill and destroy any nation that dares oppose Mesopotamia even slightly. Anyways, these guys, their secret comes short. As a military, as like the world is like, what happened to this expedition? And after that, a civil war breaks out as well. And this civil war is basically like, yo, we're big enough. We have because basically they just found a bunch of oil and natural resources, and this civil war is like, we're gonna be so rich if we actually interact with everyone else. And so, yeah, the civil war does win. And they come out of their isolation thing and they're forced to interact with these guys. The government is still in charge, the exact same government, but the only thing that changes is they have to promise that they basically they're legally required to actually open relations with everybody now. And so when like messenger messages, okay, by this time like telephones, walkie-talkies, I guess, exist. And so the Persians, they send over diplomats with walkie-talkies and they find traces of these guys and eventually they get there and these diplomats are like, "Oh, hello. What you just did was illegal. We're going to declare war on you now. Also, we know how to cross the Indus now, so haha." With this war, as Persians are forced to take this right thing, they do find this shortcut, which they didn't know about, and eventually a giant clash happens like right there, and it's won by the Achaemenid Empire, who continues spreading, and a stare off happens on the Indus, which is all of that, and it's not actually that big in real life, but it is in this. And with this peace treaty, because Persia knows that it can't really support a war that far away. Meanwhile, in Korea, the first, or not in Korea, sorry, the blue team, the first boat is made. Now, if you were wondering how they were getting to Africa without boats, they basically had to, like, there's a bridge here, basically. There's a giant bridge here. Now, you may be asking why can't they do that with the Indus? Well, basically, they can't because the Indus in this time, I don't know if it is in real life, but in this timeline is very, like, floody. It's like the Nile. It will flood and destroy anything. So that's not an option. I don't know about this thing, but in this timeline, it's not that. It's not like the Indus. It's just yeah. Okay. So these guys develop the first boats and very quickly sell it to everybody. Meanwhile, the Mesopotamians finally regain that province. It is returned to the great republic, or not monarchy, of kingdom. Yes, kingdom of Mesopotamia. And okay, now we're gonna have something happen that's gonna trigger a mass expansion. The Byzantine crash land and in Sicily and basically take over the island. This proves that that Mediterranean, it has an end somewhere. And so the blue team does blue team stuff and they colonize. So now they basically colonize two things. Firstly, they colonize for well themselves, and secondly, they colonize for the native country thing that will exist shortly. That is very rigid. I don't know why it's so rigid. But it looks something like this now because that was very rigid. And oh my god, that looks disgusting. I am sorry you had to see that. Dear god, the border gore. Okay, it looks like that. Oh my god, that looks so much better. And then the actual blue teams thing looks like this. With this, the world is basically like, yeah, another Cold War has started. But this Cold War ends very quickly because the blue team does something that's going to change everything. One, they incorporate this and they send all the natives to to the new native country thing, which we're going to be calling Abyssinia because Ethiopia changed their name, which to Ethiopia from Abyssinia, which means that technically it's a historic name, meaning I am going to copy it. Anyway, so we're going to be calling it Abyssinia because I really don't I can't think of a name for this. But basically they send all of them to Abyssinia. And everything goes wrong after that as the red team does something that they should not have done. They colonize the Mediterranean even more, except this time they get to Morocco. They get to Morocco. I want to emphasize that they get to modern day Morocco. Now, if you have been watching the entire series, which by the way, thank you if you have, you remember that the entire point of this entire expansion was to find Morocco, because there were stories told that it was like full of gold and stuff. I don't know if it is in our timeline, but it is in this timeline. And so, well, gold rush, every single human being in the world literally just goes to Morocco for giant gold rush. And the red team is scared because one, mass immigration means that the rest of their places are very underpopulated now. But two, they don't want the news to get out. Guess what just got out the news? So now every single country knows that there is actually gold here, and instantly everyone wants to colonize this way. So knowing that this will trigger a very big war, the all the countries like come together. While that's happening, the red team colonizes even more, because this little thing conference thing that they're holding is to regulate colonization of Africa, just so it doesn't turn into a take the land fast and don't even incorporate it, leading to mass instability and destroying the world as we know it. So, as the red team's doing this, the conference decides that at least a third of the countries in the world need to approve your colonization, and that's how it can actually be incorporated. If you decide to ignore this law, sanctions, one. Two, war is probably going to break out between you and a bunch of rebels who are going to be funded by the other countries. So the red team agrees to this immediately because they know that they're going to very quickly be able to grab up the coast, and in case of an actual war breaking out, they're going to be able to win it, because at this point in time, because of all the wars that everyone else has fought, I do believe the red team is stronger than every other country in the world combined, and their only real competitor is the blue team and the Persians. Meanwhile, the blue team annexes another province, and this includes the capital. And now the purple team's mad, and they basically shoot out, and they're basically like, "Come on, stop it, stop it." The blue team says no, and you know what they do? They make the entire purple team very mad. They basically say, "Okay, you got one more year, and then we're taking all of the purple team all at once." The purple team is extremely mad, and so war. The purple team declares war on the blue team, and it's more of a revolution of their like independence and right to self-governance. But eventually, they very quickly do steamroll, because this time they have patriotism, something that the blue team had last time, and something that is extremely strong. They're able to capture. Well, they're not able to capture the blue team capital, but they are. They're not even able to push that much, and the blue team very quickly pushes them back. But here's what the blue team isn't able to do. They're not able to start a working like front in here. They do a little bit of stuff. They get in there a little bit. They cross the border, but ultimately it takes out way too much resources, and they're forced to do a peace treaty. So this peace treaty just basically no more expansion for the blue team. All the purple team like taxes and stuff are lifted. They don't have to give the blue team any more provinces. And that's pretty much it. The blue team doesn't really care. They still got a huge chunk of Africa. And now there are really only 3 countries in Africa. Meanwhile, over here, we're going to call this country the Umayyad Caliphate. And they basically take out a huge chunk of Africa. And they're not really a country. They're more of like a bunch of tribes who united to form a country. And they're going to be peach. Yes, they're going to be peach color. Meanwhile, the blue team, who really needs money, decides to impose taxes on their little province of all the native people, and this leads to civil war breaking out. As the blue team basically then also says that we're not giving you independence anymore, and the natives are mad, so they civil war, and they very quickly, because they're basically the only people inside of this province, take out a huge chunk of the province. Actually, they take out the entire province, and then also start spreading into Africa. And they take out on the blue team's Africa, and they take out a huge portion. Eventually, they're able to just take out all of the blue team's Africa, and now protests start breaking out in the blue team to let them gain their independence. The blue team starts becoming radical and basically dictatorship, and they suppress these guys, which leads to civil war over here as well, and peace. Okay, nothing changes in the peace treaty except for the fact that one, I'm going to need to find a good color for this. That's perfect. That's good enough. And two, independence. Independence for the native country. Meanwhile, over here, a small, like, not even small, the red team does expansion stuff again, and they continue expanding over the line over here that was made, and this time they grab up a huge chunk of Europe, and this huge chunk is very big. Meanwhile, them colonizing this is also followed by a quick grabbing of these islands by the Byzantine, who are now completely stuck inside of. Oh my god, why did. No, okay. Who are now stuck inside of. What's it called? Oh yeah, they're stuck inside the Mediterranean now because all the exits and entries to the Mediterranean are completely under the control of the red team, as well as coastal access for the yellow team is no more because the red team takes a lot of taxes, which leads to the yellow team colonizing a big old chunk of Europe and getting into the Balkans and taking out a huge chunk of them. But they do reach the open sea, which is really good for them and really bad for the red team, because now the only people they can collect taxes from are from the Byzantine, who have no trade with anyone else because they're very self-sustainable, because the population is what, like 2 million? That is not that much in this, because the world population is currently at 10 billion. Yeah, the population is weird in this. But, yeah, they're self-dependent. They don't really need the sea access anyways, and the red team is mad, so they do the very illogical thing, and they colonize this little portion to basically say to the what's their name? Ah, yes, the Crimean Republic that we will invade you, and the Crimean Republic is very mad because not only did they break the treaty twice and defeat Iran, Persia, the blue team, and Crimea in a war, because of that treaty. They now also have the entire Mediterranean and this stuff. But with this, guys, we're going to end the video right here. And this king is going to be in his 60s by the by the start of next episode. So with that, guys, goodbye.